It's no secret that history tends to repeat itself. And when it comes to the stock market, investors will bend over backward doing mental gymnastics just to convince themselves that this time is somehow different. Legendary investor Sir John Templeton, who averaged 15% annual returns for 38 straight years, once said those are the 4 most expensive words in the English language. And he wasn't exaggerating, because nothing drains a brokerage account faster than blind optimism dressed up as financial brilliance. Which brings us to Jesse Livermore, one of the early pioneers of speculative trading, the man who inspired the main character in the classic book Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, and someone famous for making his fortune by shorting markets during crashes. Livermore once said, "There's nothing new on Wall Street. There can't be, because speculation is as old as the hills. Whatever happens in the market today has happened before and will happen again." And he was right. There's a market bubble hardly anyone talks about anymore, one that looks disturbingly similar to where we are right now. I'm not referring to the dot-com bubble of the early 2000s, or even the 2008 financial crisis. I'm talking about a bubble you've probably never heard of, one that, when it finally burst, got ugly fast. The market crashed by 50%, major global companies saw their valuations cut by 60 to 80%, inflation shot up from 3% to 11%, and it took the market 8 long years to recover. That was the Nifty 50 bubble of the early 1970s. The story starts in the late 1960s. America had just come off a 20-year economic sugar rush after World War II. Factories were booming, suburbs were spreading across the country like acne on a teenager, and Americans felt untouchable. Because in the late 60s, people had money, confidence, and, most importantly, blind optimism. And honestly, who could blame them? The US had just beaten Germany in World War II, landed a man on the moon, allegedly, and, maybe most importantly, invented the Etch-a-Sketch. Life was good. And right in the middle of all that optimism sat the stock market. From the end of World War II in 1945 all the way through 1970, the U.S. stock market had climbed more than 350%. This record-breaking bull run gave rise to a new idea in investing, something called the one-decision stock. The premise was simple: find companies so big, powerful, and dominant that you only ever had one decision to make: buy. These were known as the Nifty 50, not risky penny stocks or scrappy tech startups, but blue-chip giants with steady cash flows: Coca-Cola, American Express, McDonald's, and other household names. Investors believed these companies were bulletproof. Selling them was considered downright crazy. But here's the thing about investing: if something sounds like a no-brainer with zero downside, it's almost always a financial grenade with the pin already pulled. And that's exactly what was happening. By the early 1970s, Nifty 50 stocks weren't just pricey, they were priced like gravity no longer applied to Wall Street. The average P/E ratio for the overall market was around 15, reasonable, healthy, the kind of number you could introduce to your parents. But the never-sell mentality surrounding the Nifty 50 turned their valuations into fairy tale figures. Coca-Cola traded at 46x earnings, Xerox at 49x, McDonald's at 86x, and Polaroid at a mind-blowing 90x earnings. On average, the group traded at an astonishing 42 times earnings. And it didn't stop there. At their peak, the top 5 Nifty 50 stocks made up roughly a quarter of the entire market, and the whole group combined represented nearly 45% of the total US stock market. Now, if today's market is giving you a strange sense of déjà vu, you're not alone. Mark Twain once said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." And while today's market isn't an exact copy, it definitely rhymes with 1972. Back then, the Nifty 50 made up nearly 45% of the US market. Every dollar invested into an index fund was basically a bet that those same 50 companies would somehow grow into the sky-high valuations pinned on them. As Warren Buffett once said, what we learn from history is that people don't learn from history. And here we are again, staring at a top-heavy market, pretending valuations don't matter, and whispering the 4 most expensive words in the English language. This time, it's different.